from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased. Joining me, Hubert. Hubert, thank you very much for joining me today on the show. So the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So tell us a little bit more about you, your journey, and what you're currently up to, and then we can take it from there.
Very good. Thank you, Mehmet, for having me. It's a great pleasure. So I'm Hubert Behaghel. I'm French. I actually started my career as a consultant doing lots of missions coding, and then we got acquired, and I decided with some of my colleagues to start a new company. And then I met my wife, and it wasn't a good time to fund the company, so I went with a customer. But that entrepreneurship adventure that started and had to stop early, it stuck in my mind. And then I did actually what sometimes we call in the industry the engineering pendulum. You know, I've been pushed into management roles, etc. And so now I'm a CTO at Veriff. Veriff is actually the company that's has a mission to make the internet safer. I can elaborate a bit on that a bit later.
Sure.
But the reason why Veriff made sense to me and why I feel like I'm at the right place is because throughout my career, actually, after I stopped doing the pendulum, I actually work with very big companies like Amazon, Sky, Marks and Spencer, and a few more. And then actually I decided that scale-up was really an interesting space for me because not only I understand the mature model that we need to achieve, but also I need to feel like I'm shaping a technology, I'm shaping a team, and scale-up does it great. And Veriff in this regard is perfect because it brings exactly this combination of challenge to have a mission and they'll be able to bring something new that will really solve problems.
Great. And again, thank you very much, Hubert, for being here today. We have a lot of things to touch on, but I would love to start with, your current role and your current company, Veriff, right? So you are into a space which is, I would say it's top of mind for everyone, whether you are an individual, you are a business, because you are solving something related to identity verification, right? So what I want to understand from you, Herbert, first is if we can just, go over the main challenges that, people face when it comes to identity verification, and then relate that to, maybe the main core, I would say, solutions that Veriff offers today. So if you can enlighten us on that aspect.
And can I ask you, do you care a lot about the end user experience or the companies that's trying to manage its
Let's talk about both, and feel free to dissect it, Hubert. No
Very
worries.
good. No, that's great. So look, when I guess the biggest challenge we have is that it's actually surprisingly hard for you to prove who you are online. And then the other thing that's very interesting is it's very easy online to tamper and to fake and create this type of identity fraud, impersonation frauds. So because if we think about what has happened, is the internet has boomed and keeps bringing more of our life into the digital space, and so we need to really create a lot of trust because any economy, and the digital economy is no exception, is built on trust. But we didn't have actually the basic trust infrastructure that's digitalized, right? So what Veriff did actually at the first move is you could almost consider it like we breached and used the trust infrastructure from the real world with paper plastic document, and made it scalable and useful for companies to be able to verify their end users and that's where you create trust. And that's actually a very hard problem, because you need to have expertise around documents first, but also biometrics, because unfortunately online it's so interesting with the documents we use, the passport, etc. They are very sophisticated documents, and it's actually we could write books about the level of security they bring, but when you upload a photo of it, like a lot of it is lost, right? And then suddenly to just swap paste on such document, you need Photoshop or even something much cheaper, and you can start being a fraudster, right? So that's the main challenge: is how do you create strong definition of identity online when all you have actually is mechanisms that are fairly easy to tamper. And that's where also one big weapon, you could say, that we have to fight that is AI, of course. And then what has been so interesting in the recent 2 years is we've seen that AI can also be the threat. And then deepfakes has become even more of a challenge. So now if you step back for a company, and you could take, for instance, Mondo that we are helping with the KYC in the UK, know your customer. Their vested interest is to get a highly accurate verification mechanism, because what it means for them is that not only they create an environment of safety, but of course they also allow themselves to not incur massive cost on fraud, which we know now is growing by 20-25% year over year, right? And the rate of fraud is growing 20% year over year. And also when you look at the actual cost of fraud, it's roughly 6% of the revenue that are made online. So there's a big, trust tax that is carried by the good actors to make up for this. And so I think when we put ourselves in Monzo's shoes now, it's very clear that there is high value in having early in the onboarding funnel this ability to verify. But then there is a ton of smaller interaction that you also want to create a high accuracy verification on. So, we get delivered more and more stuff, all of us. And if you have, for instance, age-restricted deliveries, here you probably don't want to pull your full passport and get a full verification. What you want is just something around the age, which can be done. Well, you can still flash a document, and that's something that Veriff support. But also for more easier use cases, you can just use biometric and create an age estimation that's good enough. And so here we work with really cool company called Starship, and they send bots to your place. You can't open the container until you have proven your age, etc. So there's just, and then, the gig economy is so interesting as well, right? Because now you want to, and that's an amazing opportunity that the digital world gives us. Like, we can have jobs that are either more temporary or just more adapted to our lifestyle. But here again, trust is important. And suddenly it's not just the onboarding that you need to prove. You need to prove as well that the person that's showing up to do the job is the person that you were expecting, right? And suddenly again, like, your face is used every day, or the mechanism, by the way. But right now, the best we have is actually this, right? This either go full blown with documents and selfie, or get with something that's more biometric-centric, which is smooth, but also requires new technologies like liveness detection to be able to be done without the problem of deepfake, for instance.
That's very interesting, Hubert. And, I have a couple of very quick follow-up questions on this. You mentioned AI. How this made things more challenging, I would say, for any anti-fraud technology in general. And then, coming to the specific use case, which is mainly in KYC and these kinds of use cases. So, did it make it more complex, and it kind of led us to think again the technology that has been in place for some time? What was the effect of the AI? Deepfakes mainly, of course.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. And it's interesting because this is a question we get from our customers a lot. And I have to say, initially, my answers was not super convincing, because fundamentally, AI is really, Gen AI and deepfakes are really good at, trumping the human eye or even the computer vision. But you can't fight fraud with just one layer, right? So the whole richness of a solution like Veriff is it has several layers. And then if you think about Gen AI, in a way, for us, it hasn't been new. Like being able to craft a very convincing faces or even documents online is something we've faced from the beginning. So one thing you could say is that it has lowered the barrier to entry to create sophisticated and high quality fakes. But then if you don't understand how you should distribute your attack, if you don't understand the concept of device fingerprinting and all the other layers that we use, then all that you were doing is actually, yes, we could see that you could, go through one of our layers, which is a computer vision. But because you were caught by the other layers, then actually first was a great opportunity to learn without having any impact on our customers or on the use case. But it's true that this is generalizing, and now we see more and more sophisticated attacks that are not just using the Gen AI to create an image, but also it's not using AI that much, but the distribution and all the other layers can be actually managed by specific actors. And that for us, what it means is so on one side, we need to be good at either generating or finding data that allow us to refine our training on AI. So that clearly has been a very clear demand on our side. But on the other side, I would say it has also amplified the need for us to have a two-pronged response, right? One is the ability to quickly, I would say, operate on the band-aid if we see that really the attack is going through. And in seconds, sometimes minutes, Veriff is going to take some actions that are a bit too coercive. And then that allows us also to understand that, okay, now we have something that can trip us. And that creates a roadmap for the product team and the data science team to productize these and remove these band-aids that works, but may not scale the right way we want, or be a bit too coercive again. And so this combination of having to acquire data and learning super fast from new, what it means for me is I need to invest on, you could say, on the velocity of Veriff, not necessarily about a specific feature or a specific technique. It's really about how can we create a feedback loop that allows minimal impact on our customers, even though we know there will always be, the fraudsters are always looking and there is always at some point a breach or something. But it's this ability to be highly responsive, both at the operational level and at the product level. And it's true, data is a very interesting challenge because right now, so we are an European company, so we work under GDPR, and we tend to be data processor, right? But that means we can't keep the data for very long, and we can't use it for long-term training. So there is a very interesting, you could say, battle for us to kind of maintain or generate high quality data that allows us to always validate we have the top class accuracy that we promise to our customers.
Yeah, the other question I wanted to ask you about, and a little bit, it's kind of, from your perspective as a CTO and someone with a long experience. So you are in a space where you need to work on protecting the client, and at the same time, of course, and the business, like it's like two side picture here. At the same time, from UX perspective, like what usually, even I come from a technical background, when I have like this friction in verifications and all this, so I feel like, so what have you seen, like really something interesting that can be done to keep, the security aspect, the identity protection, the fraud protection perspective, while keeping the things smooth? What I know, like it's like kind of stuffed question, but like, is there a secret sauce for combining these two together?
It's a very good question, and it's a tricky thing because you're right. On one side, you could say the thing we have to do is to increase maximum friction for the bad actors, but ideally with no friction at all, right? The ideal solution with no friction at all for the good actor, right? So Veriff uses, it's true that what we call our end user flow is a space of a lot of attention. One thing I think we do really well is, for instance, we minimize the amount of steps. So one thing that's a bit special about Veriff is, for instance, we don't ask you to tell us, is it a driving license? Is it a passport? our AI is going to actually figure that part for us as well. So on one side, just trying to get to the super minimum, which is like you take a selfie, you upload your whatever document, and then we just have a bit of a throttle, and we tell you that's it, you passed. And that's what we try to maintain in every scenario. But it's not always possible. For instance, when you work for the mobility industry, well, then they need sometimes several documents, because it's not just the identity, it's the driving license. And the other thing is there is a concept of that's a concept we're working on that's a bit new, is that you can also try to understand what is, I would say, the motivation of the user for going through, and take that into account in how you structure the flow. Because I don't know if it, for instance, we work also a lot with the HR industry, and if you onboard it because you're going to get a job or going to get an interview with a company, then your motivation is quite high. So here, depending on how much confidence you try to build, like we can structure a flow where it's okay to take a bit more steps because the motivation is high and the quality will be higher down the line. But if it's a scenario where actually the motivation is really low, then you need to accept that here there is a trade-off you need to make consciously. So that could be failing in favor of the customer, for instance, or that could be just, we have a scoring mechanism and we have some labels we share with our customers on our decisions. And then it could be also calibrating the threshold with them, etc. But this tension between conversion and miss fraud rate, which is the gold standard or the North Star of any fraud system, it's always to be renegotiated. And more we believe the concept of use case needs to come to the fore. It's not even the industry, it's not even the customer, but the customer is important as well, right? For instance, in this flow, if you see very slow go and you weren't prepared for it, like it's a problem as well, like where I am now, who I am talking to, right? So there's a lot of detail that this flow looks super simple, and I hope it is for most of our customers. But you're right to say, like, there is a density of problem solving here, and the balance that's, again, always to be renegotiated.
Absolutely. And now this brings me to, to another, I would say, topic which I want to discuss with you, because Hubert, what you're describing is exactly, what solving a problem from technology aspect. And I want to ask you about, this concept of, the long-term business vision versus, the goals of the business. And I'm asking you from a CTO perspective here, because, taking, like just what you solve today at Veriff is maybe one aspect of it, right? So from a customer perspective, but what I'm curious to know from you is, what have you seen the biggest challenges when it comes to aligning, this business vision with maybe the goals that we set for our teams? I mean, from technology perspective.
It's a really good question. And actually, I have to say, Veriff has given me the best playground to take that to the next level, because actually, we are not the only one as Veriff to have this dream, but one goalpost, if you want, of identity online is going to be reusable identity, which means, in effect, you don't treat, so Veriff right now is a highly transient platform, right? We don't retain anything. Like, you come, you do your session, and we forget about you, again, for data privacy consideration, which are very valid. But the long-term vision is to be a partner with our customers of a higher level, where we could be data controller. And what that allows us to do is then we can remember you, and we can remember a different level of data. That means suddenly, I don't know, if you open a bank account with this partner and then you go on this social network, and that also works with Veriff, we can be actually, we can even do, one of the grade would be a bit like, are you human? The Google reCAPTCHA thing, that you could just get on the page, it would load a bit there. Well, actually, I know you, I recognize your device, etc. So just go ahead. Now, so that's long term. As I tell you, like, there is a technical challenge, if unless it's not the biggest, but there is a level of partnership, how we can position Veriff. Now, what's so interesting is, to achieve this grade, we need a lot of foundations. And so Veriff just launched its biometric authentication solution this summer. Biometric authentication, I think everyone understands what it's meant to be doing, But really, what's important is the concept of liveness, of biometrics itself, and how you can plug it into different solutions. And so we have 3 portfolio at Veriff right now: the IDV, as you said, the biometric solutions, and then what we call product expansion, which is trying to answer the question like, can you be trusted? Right? It's not just who you say you are; is can you be trusted? And what's so interesting is all this portfolio needs to play their part to build toward the vision. So they all have their roadmap, they all have their intermediate feature and product. But the real thing they are trying to achieve together is its ability to deliver a reusable identity platform for the internet. And then underpinning it, which is also very interesting, is concept of product platform. And this is where now I'm going to be talking much more like hardcore CTO. When you solve the problem that Veriff has solved, then you realize that the internet needs, more sophistication and be able to plug solution in different part of the life cycle. You realize quickly you need to go for a multi-product strategy, and then suddenly when you want to become a multi-product company, it's very easy to miss the turn in a way. And so we have formed last year an area in my org, which is called product platform. And product platform, in a way, you could say, is here to bridge the proper platform engineering with the cloud settlement, the infrastructure, the CI/CD, all this very foundational stuff for doing engineering. But product platform is kind of sitting on top of it, and is here to amplify this platform strategy, which has things to say about velocity, efficiency, making sure that the path of least resistance for engineers and product teams is also the path that maximize doing the right thing in terms of customer experience, in terms of reliability, etc. But here with the product platform, we don't treat the engineer as the customer, the persona, like in platform engineering. We treat the entire product team, right? And so we have several product teams, and this product platform is here to really understand what is the right level, what is the right environment that's going to allow them to focus to play this velocity game I mentioned before. And so one thing that's emerging from the strategy of the product platform is a concept of orchestration or workflow, which actually is going to become a product for Veriff. But right now, we actually don't even focus that much about the end user, even though we have a vision for it. We're trying to say, look, if all these portfolios have all parts that needs to be assembled into this reusable identity solution, then let's already think about the foundation, and let's make sure that not only we get fast there by having the right focus, but also we get this ability to reassemble part of our solutions into new solutions. I don't know if it's helpful, but that's really the way we attack that.
No, absolutely. Now, couple of things that also I know that can happen, especially when you need this velocity that you talked about, and especially we mentioned maybe AI, and of course AI is not new by itself, but I mean the fast development of AI also was very fast. So from your experience and from your current position also, Hubert, like, how do you prioritize or decide, for example, that okay, there is this cool technology, there's like maybe technologies also, like more than one, or maybe it's a practice. So how do you decide, like, okay, this is a good one to adapt, right, and we should implement it, but at the same time you have to think, okay, about again the goals and the needs that the company needs, right? So how do you make this balance in deciding which emerging technologies or practices to get on board?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So there is first, being very deliberate on where you want to be at the forefront of the technology. So for Veriff, it's about biometrics, it's about documents, including digital documents. So we know very precisely what expertise we want to drive forward. And then there is, so when a technology emerged, we actually don't do it exactly the way I want yet, but there is this concept of radar, right? That we have. So there is some documentation when we can record, or even we just have an engineering forum on a weekly basis where, we can showcase things that are actually popping on anyone's radar and trying to first create awareness. Now, when it's time to decide, okay, now we actually want to try it, that can be very quick in the sense of, if we have, for instance, a new technology on document authenticity, right? And we know we sometimes see challenges, and we think they could help us with some problems that are not systematic but could become a problem. Then we don't hesitate, and there is a bit of bandwidth that any team is maintaining to just jump on it. But if it's a bigger decision and a bigger investment upfront, then at Veriff, I've championed a betting framework that's not just for new technologies, used for how we want to place a bet. I call it TRAP. TRAP stands for, so there is time, results, and then the A is appetite, and the P is potential. So these four constructs, what they are trying to say is, look, we use it a lot more, by the way, on, one thing that's so interesting at Veriff is the SaaS enterprise. So we work with Fortune 100 and big customers that tend to expect from us a lot of engagement. And at some point, I had an issue where it was hard for me to understand where to draw a line of, how many calories can I put on this customer versus the bigger picture, etc. Right? And so TRAP framework also helped us with this, which is to say, okay, you have an idea, and the P of TRAP is going to capture the potential. So we can agree, say, in 1 year or 2 years, this could be, 2 million run rate for Veriff. So, okay, so that position already the initiative. Same for the technology. It doesn't have to be revenue. It can be, at Veriff, we have a concept of balanced scorecard, which are like the 16 metrics that the business is optimizing for. So if you can justify potential for optimizing, moving the needle by that much on that metric, that as well can be translated into a score. And then, you have your potential. But then the problem with the potential is it creates a long-term view that's very appealing, but you don't get a chance to understand how you're going to fail fast, for instance, right? And you don't even understand, again, how many calories you want to put in. So the A of TRAP appetite is how much we're happy to waste even on this. Like, it may not pan out, but we want to give it a go. What is our appetite? And actually, I found that for engineers, if you actually tell them this is a problem, this is a requirement, but also this is how much we think we should spend on it, I guess a super useful input to kind of calibrate the sophistication, the amount of effort you want to put in it, and then the architecture of the solution that should come with it. And then, okay, so now we know how much we are happy to waste, and we know how much we could make. We still need a line in the sand that tell us how to fail fast, right? So time and results, I hate to say, by that time, and usually we want a horizon that's less than 6 months, we want to have materialized that much result. It could be on the potential, the same metric as potential. It could be something much more of a leading indicator. And so once you have packaged, your TRAP, your bet like this, then, based on historical data or prioritization framework, we can decide, look, this is worth going ahead, or no, sorry, potential is not big enough. And then, this also helps me. If I look at all the traps we have in flight, it also helps me manage actually these calories again of how much I want to put on risky bets versus how much I want to put on safe outcomes, right? But that's one thing that has helped us a lot to kind of allow us to be deliberate on what you were saying, like when to try something new, where to have a betting framework and be clear on the expertise you're trying to lead forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you, Hubert. Now, you mentioned engineers and you mentioned, like fail fast. So let's shift to a little bit leadership perspective. And when we talk leadership, usually, so we talk about building culture, right? Now, from what you have seen successful at Veriff and maybe from previous experience also, Herbert, like, how do you build a culture where people can have this, ability to fail fast, to keep trying, at the same time, foster the continuous learning, and, be eager for innovation within the engineering team? Like, And especially, like now, I'm not sure how is it at Veriff, but I spoke to a lot of CTOs and CPOs and VP of engineering, and all of them that now they're telling me they are either like a hybrid mode, so people can work remotely. Even sometimes they have people shifted across multiple time zones. So how you build this culture, Hubert?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, the foundation of a leadership that enables that, I find in engineering, has to be built on authenticity, which I like even more at Veriff, because authenticity is exactly what the internet's kind of removing from our life. Like, I can't be too sure that I'm talking to you right now. Maybe you're just a engineered video that's really good at on the spot improvising text. So authenticity, why? Although I don't have a great explanation, but the best I could come up with is engineers are the people who are building this modern world, right? They know how it works. So they can, and sorry for the word, but they can smell bullshit like 10 miles away. And you can't afford to kind of play with that with them, because that's already that's shut down trust. And what you get out of this authenticity in your leadership is then actually challenges, but also ideas are going to be to get a voice, right? And that's exactly what you want. So there is this first element of how to create the environment that makes it safe and build the trust for us to actually start challenging each other on better solutions or alternative way that could turn out to be better. There is something that is also it's very, very interesting that you mentioned the remote or hybrid environment, which is actually something that Veriff has been through as a transformation, and I think it's going to be even more of a challenge in the future of the company growth. So to keep this mindset of an eagerness to innovate, I find it's also another thing that's so interesting is when you speak to engineers or product engineering teams more generally. I think one trap is to talk about change. For instance, when we do a reorg, we talk about change. When there is a new priority, we talk about change, and then we talk about change fatigue, which is a bit normal in a scale up like Veriff. But if you think about it, it's actually not okay, because people who join Veriff and companies like Veriff, they actually want this change. They want this agility, right? So when you put them into a place where it's change fatigue, it's probably because you're doing something wrong at the leadership level, because these guys are actually here for that. So, and you could say it's a communication problem, and most likely it is. What I find a good way of engaging here is to talk about problems and more interesting problem we have identified, or problems that are going to help more of our customers, etc. Because then that create a mindset where actually these teams are, well, I join for problems, and that's what I do. So it's small, but actually it changes a lot. And when I was VP or even director before, it was my product counterpart that was always clear that when we announce changes, I want to be at the forefront, because I know how to sell it, and it makes a huge difference. The last thing I would like to say, and actually I'm still learning a lot about this, of course, to create space. So, the hackathon culture is very important. And at Veriff, we have, some work to do, but in previous companies, I've seen companies doing 2 weeks of hackathon every quarter. And that actually was kind of creating a great product out of it somehow. So, you need to decide a bit how much you want to index on it and how much it's relevant. I think the more, it depends on a lot of things. But the other thing that I'm learning, and I think is very important, is that, for instance, data science doesn't have the same pace and doesn't have the same relationship towards innovation than more classic product engineering, say for web app, right? And I think it's also important to respect this space, because if you try to put everyone on the same approach, every practice on the same pace, etc., in relation to innovation, you're going to not get the outcome, right? And so I think also understanding this space and understanding how to create the space and right timeline for it is super important. And we find that at Veriff that data science, it needs several iterations. It needs to go into its bubble, then it starts having a view, and then only you can ask for a timeline and an execution plan. But it's much longer at the beginning of the cycle.
Absolutely right. Now, again, something you touch base a little bit on, Herbert. Like, so one of the things, because I like to cover this topic, I'm more I would say leaning towards startups and trying to get someone like yourself to give them some hints. So every startup, and because you were mentioning scaling and you were mentioning like the company starts to grow, like what are the things for fellow maybe CTOs or maybe even VP of engineering that you can give on this road to scale? Because the road to scale is not like today they are, for example, a startup and tomorrow they are a scale up, right? So it's not like just a switch, right? So there's something that happens, but from technology perspective and maybe even from leadership perspective, there are like some some stuff they need to avoid. So because what they have to do, maybe we will need like episodes about it. But like major things, major thing that they need to keep in mind while doing this journey for going out from being just that small startup that maybe no one still have heard about them, going mainstream and becoming, that company, that enduring company, which is now growing, getting access to more customers, and maybe even expanding in new geographies. So should they avoid, I would say?
What should they avoid? Great question. I actually try to focus on one specific challenge that I found fascinating at Veriff. So when you start in the early days of the startup, you have a concept of accountability that's very bottom up, and I think on one side, what you need to realize it's that needs to be nurtured. That's exactly what it should be. Of course, you need to create a top-down direction that create clarity, but the truth is, it's only going to work and to have the right level of energy if you have the right accountability that's bottom up. But then what you should avoid doing is assume that this concept of accountability is going to stay that much bottom up, and that people as well, maybe even it's actually probably the harshest part of a startup to scale up, I find, is that the same people who enjoy a very bottom up accountability are going to be able to embrace a concept which is not top down. What I find we need to shoot for is a concept of accountability where now it's a team that's more taking accountability. And for instance, we have a set of priorities and we all stick to these priorities, right? There is no one that comes and say, well, I care a lot about this, other priorities not on the list, so I'm going to progress that, right? And so I think if you don't actually manage this part of the story well and understand that at some point, we either need to pull more resource and be a bit, like we had with the last 2 years, like a tighter ship, etc. So we need to be more joined up on what we do. If you can't help people take on this journey that now the concept of accountability and the concept of team are going to take very different shape, then the problem is you're going to have your top performers are going to become even anomaly in your organization. And I want to believe that most of the time, actually, we can take them on the journey. Some people are really startups, and we should respect that as well. And so that means the way we take decisions, the way we bring a concept of prioritization, the way we also refresh our goals, etc. They need to illustrate and even tell us very frankly, like in this authenticity, is like, we're changing a bit the way we do things, and we want, all of us to be still as accountable as the total, but the way we are running this topic or that topic now needs to be in coordination with this wider team, etc. So that's the one thing I would like to say is like, don't be naive about the fact that accountability takes a very different shape along the journey.
Yeah, I agree with you, Herbert, because I think you kept mentioning authenticity, which is, something I speak about it a lot, because, like this is a race to communication, I believe, right? So when you communicate everything in a transparent way and, you bring everyone up to speed, so things becomes much easy because the whole team understand what you're trying to do. So they don't get, because I've seen examples and I've read about like some use cases where the team, they were left blind about what's happening. And, when they get to know, like the company now is shifting to this direction, they get upset. And what happens? Like people start to leave and, problems start to happen. So yeah, this has resonated with a lot of stories that I've read about, and even I've heard it from couple of people of founders, and they were complaining. I said, yeah, like, have you I asked the question exactly the same way where you were stating, like, have you been transparent and, authentic enough with your team? And said, no, you know what, but like, we needed to hide things. And like, what I've seen some people, they think like, let's do it first, and then we'll let the team know about it. And they fall in the trap that maybe something will go wrong, so they don't want to upset the team. And but actually they they make the whole thing fails from the beginning. But nevertheless, now final question for you, Robert, because we are about to wrap this up. How was the experience from shifting industries, I would say, for you? Because, you mentioned in your intro, like you worked different places. So I know like you were also like going up in the ladder of your career at the same time. But at the end of the day, again, that's a shift. So from Amazon to Sky to now Veriff. So this, like, how much it enriched also your perspective as a CTO, because you need to understand the business and, of course, take the company with a vision for the technology. How was that experience with shifting industries?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I'll be honest, initially, I just felt, if I'm honest, that what we do as software engineer is we have our technical skills, but we always apply them to a domain. And the truth is, then that means you need to become good at, getting under the skin of that domain. And now, whether it's private banking, like I started, or, the media industry with Sky, or the retail and e-commerce industry with Marks and Spencer. What was interesting is each of these industries, when they saw me coming, there was always something to tell me, like, you're not from the industry, right? So I think it was the strongest with retail. Like, I wasn't a retailer, so maybe I wouldn't understand, a lot of their challenges. And I never felt that actually it was a struggle for me to get under the skin of these industries. And to the point where even if I hope it's okay to say it, but my experience is that it also doesn't really matter that you're in a very big company or a small company in terms of what challenges you have, right? Surprisingly, velocity and enduring was a challenge for Marks and Spencer. It was a challenge for Veriff. It's the way you attack it. I would say the thing that has been the biggest and the most fascinating type of challenges shifting companies or industries has mostly been around culture, right? For me, I had my big moment when I joined Amazon's first American company I was working for. And then actually, to be honest, Veriff was also quite kind of cool because it's an Estonian Baltic culture. And initially, if I'm completely honest with you, I was struggling with the fact that am I engaging enough? Is it a disengaged team? Is it more introverted? And I actually needed the help of a book I have behind me called The Culture Map to help me piece it together. So I think culture is a much more for a technologist is a much more important dimension to acknowledge. Now, as a CTO, what I really enjoy is having been across these countries, across these industries, my ability to empathize and to connect quickly with the CTO on the other side, the customer, is great. And I have to say here, it doesn't take me a lot to always find some common ground that allows to break the ice and then usually when I'm engaged, it's because there is an escalation or something. So you need actually this human connection. And so I think that's where this diversity of experiences is helping me the most today. Well, otherwise it has just reinforced to me that, the same approach, the same technologist mindset, but really at the service of a domain and a new set of customers is what we do. And it doesn't matter too much where you apply it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love this, Hubert, because, I used to bring, when you bring to someone a peer, I mean, from customer perspective, they like it, right? Because first they say, okay, you're bringing me someone who talks the same language as me. And of course, as an executive also as well. So they feel like they are kind of, treated well by the company. So it always works. Like I've always seen it working. Like really, I enjoyed the conversation, like great insights from you. Any final things you want to mention and where people can find more about you and about Veriff?
Thank you. Yeah, I would say the final thing I want to say is take seriously your digital life. You have certainly people in your family that may be more elderly and are exposed much more than they realize to risks. and also the way you choose your partners, your bank online, etc. Like pay attention a bit on how much they care about just ticking the boxes of some regulation or actually foster security. You can find a lot on veriff.com, of course, and you can find me, with my very complicated last name on Twitter or X, as we say nowadays. And I have a blog on blog.behaghel.org, which should get a lot more love, but yeah, I think X is the best way to reach out to me, or LinkedIn, of course, for a professional interaction. Thank you very much, Mehmet. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the great questions.
Thank you very much, Hubert. So this is how, just for the audience, you will find the links in the show notes. So if you are listening through any of your favorite podcasting application, you can find in the show notes. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will see it in the description. Again, thank you very much, Hubert, for being with me here today. I really enjoyed the conversation. And this is how I usually just a small close from my side. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please subscribe. As I said, you are available on all podcasting platforms and on YouTube, and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming back and send me their suggestions, comments, please keep doing so. I really enjoy reading all of your feedbacks. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.